Hello everyone, my name is Lukáš Podpěra and I'm a 7-dan player from Czech Republic. And today we will talk about how to naturally build and reduce moyos. The first game I would like to talk about against Vladimír Daněk. Vladimír Daněk is a 5-dan Czech player, very famous and very experienced. He was my teacher when I was a youngster, so he knows me very well and he knows exactly how I'm playing. I'm very well known for being a territory lover. I mostly stick to territories on the sides, and that's exactly what he wants to prevent in this game. It's not very usual for me to be pushed into the center and then try to build a big moyo there. I still don't feel comfortable in these kind of games, but somehow I actually learned to play how to use influence and so on. Also, this game has been broadcasted from another view, so don't worry, I didn't play my first move into bottom left corner. I'm sitting at the top of the screen. So let's check this game out. I will mostly talk about the moments regarding moyos and influence and so on. I will probably go through the fuseki very quickly. And we can already see that white is trying to take his corners. So he actually secured the top right corner very safely. He secured the bottom right corner very safely as well. And we can also see that he's already trying to steal my corner in the top left. So that's actually the basic what to do when you want to push the opponent into the center. He doesn't care that much if the result in the corner is even or not. He just has a general strategy which he is following, and that's, in my opinion, very important as well. Strategy should be above everything. So I decided to take an influence this way, and I decided to also solidify this way, but actually at this moment I might be considering to play a big move somewhere else, like for example take a territory on the right side. And even though if white would like to cut through this way, I don't think white can actually do that much. He can only capture d17, and that's quite a lot of points, but the stone is very light, so black doesn't care that much if the stone is captured, and now black can actually get another move somewhere else. So in my opinion, when I'm looking at the game retrospectively, I believe I should probably not defend d14. But I did that, which is probably not a big mistake, and white actually continues in his own strategy. Of course, in this case, this would be probably too extreme. Like if black just goes up, and even if black lets white to make a core like this in the corner, I don't think white is happy about this result. So white is actually trying a bit more sneaky way, and this is a very good move because basically white created a possibility between extending here and attaching in the corner. Because at this moment, if I would pincer, white can already attach at the corner, and now he has this Hane and connection in center, so he can actually steal the corner this way, and that's exactly what he wants. Probably this is not a bad result for black because black has a very big influence on the left side, but my feeling in the game that I have a lot too many stones there that I'm kind of over concentrated. But yeah, when I'm looking at it back, it's probably not that bad. I was feeling so uncomfortable of giving up another corner that in the end I actually decided to defend it this way, which is probably a fine move, but my following play was not ideal anymore. White played a very skillful sequence and decided to leave quickly here. We also should not forget that white has very strong stones in the bottom right, so he is not really afraid if I build a wall at the bottom. So that's why I think he decided to play all of these attachments and then just managed to play here, which makes life completely alive. And this is actually first important moment of the game. Well, black has a lot of influence, and black also has to catch up on sure territory because white has already a lot of sure territory everywhere around the board, especially on the sides. And besides the corner in the bottom left, black doesn't have almost anything. So black needs to make use from the influence. That's why I wanted to push a bit more on this group, but it's not very easy. So I will show you very soon why. But anyway, in the game, I should have most likely played here because like this way I can build a very nice moyo at the bottom from my stones on the left. And it's exactly how this Keima should be used for. And also if white just plays somewhere else, like I don't know, this move for example, this move is a very good continuation. Like I make the stones in the bottom right part of the board make together. So that's why m3 would be a good place where to play. And even if white just plays like this and separates my stones, I can still, for example, connect, and still I build a lot of points at the bottom, and I would have very nice territory. But In the game, I decided to play here, and white actually found the sequence how to very nicely use my thin shape, and he actually created a Mii between A and B at the moment, like by playing C5. Because after this, white can either cut here at B, or white can Hane at A. These moves are very attractive for white. Like, of course, it would be natural to play here, but white would be very happy to play this Hane. But actually, after this Hane, I would be still able to play this move. So probably exchanging this for this, it's not that bad trade, so I could have actually played like this as well. But in the game, I really didn't want to give up the corner, so you can see that I was not really feeling comfortable from what white was doing. Still, it proved out to be that white's strategy is very effective to some extent. In the game, I actually decided to Hane, let white capture the stone, then he actually break through like this. I decided to take the 2 stones back, so I have a living group in the corner which is about the same amount of points as Komi is, and white finally decided to take this stone. So what to think about the result? I managed to defend my corner, but in a very small scale, and also white managed to break through my formation at the bottom. I still have a possibility to play here, but now it's not that big anymore, and even though this wall is kind of perfect, on empty board it would be normally very good result for black, but in this case, if white has a stone here, black doesn't have a very clear continuation how to use this wall. Like, I can probably still play like this, but I'm not sure if the moyo will be big enough. Actually very important to judge, and I felt like white still have way enough points and this moyo would simply not be big enough. So that's why I considered this result as bad for black, and at this moment I was probably objectively losing. However, it's the kind of game where it's very difficult to judge what's bigger and what's smaller. So of course, from human perspective, it's still far from being decided. It's really not easy to decide, like from white's point of view, how far he can enter my influence, and if he is afraid to enter the influence, then like how much does he have to reduce from his own stones. It's not easy to judge this for human. For top amateur players, the game still can be relatively even, but I'm pretty sure that top professionals would prefer white here. At the moment, yeah, I already cannot play my usual play. Like, I cannot play like this, which would be my typical move, because white would, for example, jump up here. I also said that I don't believe that K15 makes the moyo big enough. So I decided to expand the moyo this way in a large scale, and white decided to take more and more points. And I think at this moment, white made a mistake at R11, because I think it's not the biggest move on the board, because at this moment it starts to feel very urgent for white to jump up this way. And if I would be allowed to block here, white can actually jump into the center again, and black, even though black has very nice territory on the right side, something like 25-30 points, still black will probably not be able to build enough from his influences. Like, I don't see a next move for black, and that would be a very big problem. And we can see that white has 2 15 points corners on the right side. White also has nearly 10 points corner in the top left, and also white has some points in the bottom left. So already like this, we can probably count something like 50 points for white. And I also didn't count what kind of territory white has in this area. And of course, white has Komi. So it's very likely that includes something what white can get at the top. White can probably get to 70 points. And it doesn't seem like black would be able to do that on the board, because if we will be optimistic and black will be able to build 30 on the right, I don't see an area how black would be able to get 35 more points than white on the rest on the board. This would be a very difficult game. I was a bit lucky that white actually decided to play here, because now black's next move is perfect, because now black can actually close the line, and this is very natural way how black can actually build a moyo. And at this moment I started to feel like I might actually have a good chance to build enough in the center. White still continued his original strategy. He was concentrating on building territory on the side. I blocked, white extended, and it was another important moment when I was actually thinking about the continuation. Very natural move would be to play here, and we can see the center is huge, right? Like, the black's moyo got created in the kind of very natural way. So this is a result I would be probably happy about. However, I felt like if still white just goes from the outside like this, for example, and then white will play some endgame here, white can probably get some endgame here, and finally white gets some moves from this way. Still, I was not 100% sure if actually black has enough in the center, because you can see that white is getting a lot of points by only reducing. Like, white was getting a lot of endgames. So white actually at the moment has definitely more than 70 points on the board, more like 80 at the moment. We shouldn't forget about black's corner in the bottom left, but I still don't feel like I would be able to get 75 in the center. Yeah, if we just take a look at that, just 75 is not there, right? Like, we cannot see that. So black would have to play extremely strong endgame to win a game from this position. So I decided to play this move, which is a very big move, not only for points for black, but also it can have a very good continuation regarding endgame. But for some reason white decided to cut, which I actually didn't understand, because I was even able to go down here to be ambitious. Probably this would be safer, but of course black needs to play the strongest move, so even though there is a lot of agi right now, I decided to go down here. But I was actually wondering in the game why white didn't just play like this and then didn't play this schema. Black gets a lot of points at the top, and black still has a very good continuation here, so black's territory is actually improving. However, white is actually reducing at n5, and white is entering the black's territory from his own stones, and that's actually something I can recommend to you. Don't be afraid of opponents' moyos. They will be getting smaller in the second half of the game because of endgames. And also, if you are able to reduce from your own stones, I would also recommend you to that. Like, for example, I was suggesting K15 for a while at the start of the game for white. Also, at the moment, I'm suggesting this schema. This schema is actually a classic shape which you can find in pro games in this situation. Still, it would not be an easy game for black, I believe. This makes it a bit easier. So white actually decided he will break through to my central moyo by attaching here, which is a good technique. And white came back, and I decided to block and play this double hane. I was actually reading this one for a while, if I remember correctly. I was thinking for like 15 minutes if really everything is working, but I simply need to make the moyo complete. In a way, I don't have much choice. And at the moment, white actually decided to break through and start to fight. But we can see that if black cuts black this way, we can see that the three marked stones don't have enough liberties. Like at the moment, black can already cut through at n15, and those three stones might actually die. And stones are cutting stones, so white doesn't really want to lose them. There is a lot of agi in black's formation, but why doesn't you have to use them immediately? Like, if white just starts like running around, I think black will be forced to defend there at some point. So I still believe white should have played here, and if I would have to choose, I would probably still choose white at this moment. Of course, black has already a good chance to create a big moyo like this, for example. Black got already some endgames like this one, for example, but still I believe white still has the game somehow under control, and it's up to white to judge precisely how much does he have to reduce. That's much easier than for black to judge like how far he has to go and how big the moyo has to be. Because as I said, moyos are often disappearing or getting smaller in the second half of the game. So black actually needs to build the moyo way bigger than what the actual score is. That's why black's role is not easy in this game. So actually white decided to cut, but this is actually start of the troubles that white created for himself. And so he actually played 2 times Atari, then played here. And of course, if I would just take the stones at the moment, white would go through. And even though black got a lot of points, now 3 stones of black on the right side are not very healthy. But that's why I think black has to cut. White jumps, black answered. And white actually came back here, and white decided no, that he will not give these stones back to black. And that's probably where white lost the game, because white is also actually aiming for this cut, because we can see black doesn't have enough liberties at the moment. But in the game, black actually can add his own liberties like this. So at this moment, white actually has to start taking care of the stones in the center, but there is a Tesuji that white actually missed. It's this one, the classic shape, and white probably doesn't have a move here. Like, he can of course give up the stones like this, but he already made this exchange, and that's a very bad one. But still, it doesn't change the fact that if the game continues like this, it's still definitely not decided. White lost something locally, but the game is definitely not decided, because white managed to reduce a big part of black's center, and black still needs to put some effort to get enough points. So this was probably this was probably the moment how white could still keep the game reasonable. But after this happened, and black played here, black kind of created a mei between A and B, and I don't think we have to go through this game any further, because this is just a very big collapse. And of course, white still tried to create some drama with the agi at J16, but that's already not related to our topic. That's only about reading. But we can come back. If we come back, white probably didn't have to play 014. 014 was an overplay. If white would push from this side, it's not so easy for black to decide where to play, because if black just fixes all the problems this way, now probably white can come back here, because white's group is much more healthy than before when white got some exchanges. But even if white plays here and gives these 3 stones to black, I don't think it's a big deal. And if black decides to capture the 3 stones at the moment like this, white actually destroyed almost all black's center. The question, of course, is what is happening here, like after this Aji. But still, white can probably already give up something there, because black's center is kind of disappearing. That's a very big problem for black, I think. So white actually made a misjudgment with this kind of move, but I think all of white's complications started already before. Often moyos have thin shapes, and you can actually wait with using the edges. Like white could just reduce from the outside, and either white will be able to prove these edges later, or black will just spend a move there, and it's often a gain for white as well. Like only if you force the opponent to spend a move there, it's already a good news for you. That was probably the main white's mistake. White's strategy was very simple: push black into the center and then reduce, and I think he managed very skillfully until the moment of J16. But even at this moment I would still feel very comfortable as white, but here actually white started some very unnecessarily troubles, and that's why actually black got the chance to decide the game almost immediately. But anyway, in this game, white didn't care that much if he's getting even results in the corners or not. He mostly had the strategy to push me into the center, so I actually had to put a lot of effort into this game, and it was much harder for me than expected, because I got into a game which I'm not very comfortable in. And also I prepared a second game, so I played against the Dutch 6-dan player Gert Groenen. In this game, it was mostly my task to also reduce opponent's moyo, so it was a bit different game than before. I played my usual opening. I took some early points. I took another corner this way. This is a very popular joseki nowadays, and white created some influence at the bottom, and you can see that white is expanding very fast. Probably if we would like to play more conservative, we would play something like this. But we can see that white is actually expanding the moyo very quickly. I took this big point. White made some exchanges which are probably a bit negative, but it was probably before white wanted to get center, and white didn't want black to play somewhere around p9. That's why he made these exchanges. White blocks from this side, and white actually created another thickness like this, which is a very big one. However, I'm actually thinking maybe white could have go down here, because in my opinion it should be a priority for white to build the bottom side. If white plays here, black would probably be forced to push here once and then block the corner, and now if white gets some kind of move like this one, it would not be too easy for black to enter. But probably white didn't choose this strategy because he thought the bottom side would be too big and it would be too easy for black to enter it. So, I mean, that's just my guess. White didn't decide to play like this, but instead white built a thickness this way. So black played this one, and now we can see that white actually is expanding the moyo on the left side by one space jump on the 4th line, which is a good move. I would probably also strongly consider to attach here, because if we play some kind of joseki like this one, black gets a lot of territory on the top side, but white can also expand his territory from the left side. So in my opinion, this would be a playable strategy for white. So I just extended like this, and white decided to expand his moyo this way. Then white played a bit of strange move like this. It almost feels like that white attached and then played here, but if you remember, I was suggesting attachment before d14, but attaching after d14 is a bit strange. So this was something I was a bit surprised about, but we can see white wants to expand his moyo. So, but he gave actually black very clear way how to play. And it's this sequence. I don't think we can choose anything else. So white is expanding the moyo like this. Black played this move, which is a classic territorial move, and lets white to come back to the corner. White lost part of the corner, but white's wall is actually huge and also very strong. So I feel like white has a very big potential on the left, and even though black has also some kind of corner moyo and in the top right, black has to be careful to make sure that white's moyo will not get big enough. And we can see white has a lot of potential on the left, a lot of potential at the bottom. So black has to make very clear judgment how to get enough territory or not to let white to grow the moyo too big. There is actually a very interesting choice. Black could actually play like this, which I was strongly considering in the game, and apparently I should have done it, I think, but I didn't dare to let the opponent go through at h17. However, and this would probably make white's strategy working a bit more hardly. So I went up. This is very important in this kind of games when there are two big spheres of territory. This one, white is also expanding the moyo, black extended and white extended. And it was actually a very important moment of the game, and I was actually thinking what to do. So I had actually a few options in my mind. So first is this one, and I probably could have played m12, because if I make sure that white will not be able to live in the top right part of the board, black should have way enough points. So this was probably something I could have done. Then I, of course, had in my mind something like I could enter the moyo, that I will just simply make sure the white's moyo will not be big enough, and I win on points. And finally, I actually decided to play this option, which is actually saying that white is not allowed to cut through this way. And if white plays something like this, black can get a very light shape, and also at the same time, white can actually pincer these stones, and of course any kind of moyo possibility at the bottom side it disappeared. So I believe this would be a very good result for black. However, if white plays from the top side, and white decided to defend something like this, white's territory is becoming smaller. Moreover, black can still kind of clamp here from this side, and if black starts to reduce from the top, white's territory at the bottom will be very small. It's probably not even worth to defend it. I didn't actually realize white will not answer at all, because anyway, as we have showed, it's very difficult for white to take any territory at the bottom, and even if black plays here and white defends, still black can probably reduce very nicely from the top, and white would not be able to get enough in the center. m12 is a very important move, and I should have played it. I should have stayed patient. This move was probably not the best at the moment. It's very big for sure. Like if white is not allowed to cut, this move is very big for sure, but it's probably not the biggest at the moment. And in the game, since there is an entrance to black's moyo, white got the possibility to attach here. And of course, it's not easy to kill this stone, so I just went back and white played this move, and now we can see how important it is to play m12 or m13. And this move is very difficult to answer, so in the game, I decided to play here, which is aiming for this cut and also pressuring this group a bit, but seems like white didn't care so much about it. That's why white played this one, black defended, which also looks a little bit slow, and white played like this, and now another important moment comes, the moment when the game is actually changing a lot. If white just connects and black connects and white plays some kind of move here, which is probably necessary because there is a cutting point, white is actually in quite a good position, because the top side is not the moyo anymore, the right side neither. Black got left with the territory on the third line. It's still quite a big territory. If we take the belt of the territory here, another belt of territory here, probably black has something like 50 points there. Black has also some corners, so we can probably get to 70 very easily, but it's not so hard math to count that it should be no problem for white to get 50 in this area. White has some territory here, white has komi, and white has a huge potential in this area. This game is probably slightly better for white at the moment, but white actually was very greedy and decided to activate this and the double Atari, but this was kind of a self-destruction for white, and this made the game very good for black, because even though white's at the top side, and even actually if white Tanuki is still a core, black got a lot from the top. Black can also cut off these stones very easily, so living like this was not worth it. But this was only a small advantage for black, but white actually made a very big mistake in the core, because this is a very small core threat, and black actually managed to capture this stone. So any kind of possibility of separation or pushing on the stone at f2 is actually gone. So this core threat was probably a bigger mistake than what white did at the top. a6 would be a very good core threat if there is no clamp at f2, but not at this moment. So insert. In the end, white defended here, and black decided to pressure the stones at the bottom. Actually, the mode of this game changed a bit. Black had the moyo in the top right, white had the moyo in the bottom left, and we were kind of fighting for the border, which is very important in the center. And we also players had to make sure that the opponent's moyo will not grow too much. And white actually managed to get there first at m13, but the game changed because white went a bit too far with L15 and L17, and then also played a very bad core threat. But I think it's worth to show a bit more from this game, because even though white took some big moves, black still didn't capture the bottom. I still have to be very careful to make sure that white's moyo will not be big enough. Like if white gets to play here, still white's territory will get decently big, so I had to make sure this doesn't happen. I played here, and I decided to just continue into the moyo. So at this moment, white didn't defend, but at this moment, white already did. And we can see that it was not that hard to reduce white's moyo, just entering inside, and white kind of had to keep defending, because otherwise the value of the stones he invested in the past would be going kind of to zero. Or nearly zero, but white is now left on the left side with 25 or 30 points without any possibility to get any potential. So that's why I think this situation changed rapidly. Then in the game, I just took these stones because I felt like this is very big continuation. So actually now it feels like black will have a moyo in the center and not white. Finally, actually, white managed to get this huge move, but after black connected here, since there is still a core at the top side and white is not 100% alive there, white is also behind on points. White decided to resign this game already very, very early. But the game was not always been like that, because I think we can come back to this moment. This is a very natural way how to reduce opponent's moyo while expanding my own moyo. That's what white kind of did. But instead, if I would be playing here, this is also a natural way how to expand my moyo. And of course, it would be much easier for me to send a reducing stone somewhere around J10. It definitely would not be so lonely like it was in the game. Well, it was in the game, it was lonely, but it was not weak. But anyway, M12 or M13, simply that area is very important for building the moyo, because both sides want to make it as big as possible, and also the most effective way is also to make the opponent's territory smaller. So it was very important place, I think. And also it was quite visible what white's strategy is. Like, even though he played some weird moves like at f16, still it was very visible he wants to make the left side as big as possible, and black had to do something with that. And it was not that easy. So we always have to figure out, like, if it's enough to improve our territory, or if we have to reduce the opponent's territory, or we just have to directly jump in. So that's always a very difficult decision. So in this kind of games, when center matters, even such big moves like c17, and which is worth like 20 points or more, are not big. But in most of the games, of course, c17 would have been played already at this stage and not few moves before the game. So we could see that it's very important to play on their borders, and both players put a lot of effort in this area to push the border as far as possible. Hope you also enjoyed the whole series of all 8 videos. And so anyway, it was fun to record these videos. I enjoy it, and I mostly hope that you learned something from these videos and you got some new inspiration into your games. So thanks for watching of the whole series, and see you sometime either in London Go Center or some other tournaments, or just simply on another video or lesson. Bye bye.